I say I am really excited for the movie. So much so, I decided, you know what? I want to do a review on Spider-Man game. Well, that's the case here. I love superheroes. In fact, when I was very young, I used to watch every single superhero I could find. Justice League, Superman, Batman, Iron Man, Captain America, the Avengers. The list can go on and on and on. So much so, when I was very young, I actually make superheroes of my own. Well, in my own images, but you get the idea. But if there's one superhero that I admire is actually Spider-Man. I remember when I first watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series. I was amazed. I thought it was the best superhero movies trilogy I ever seen. Better than X-Men, better than even the Hulk or the Fantastic Four, especially the Fantastic Four. Which is kind of sad that they decided not to do a fourth Spider-Man movie. But hey, at least they did a reboot with the Amazing Spider-Man, and it wasn't bad per se. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, and Andrew Garfield did a pretty good job as Peter Parker and Spider-Man with the script that he's given. But everything changed when the MCU came along, and Kevin Feige decided, you know what, let's bring Spider-Man in, but with a different Spider-Man and Tom Holland to be the replacement. And Tom Holland does a pretty good job. I mean, I understand that they don't want to follow the same old motif, and I can respect that decision. I mean, they were given Spider-Man this teenager lifestyle, which I actually admire this decision. Not to mention the villains in those movies. Oh man, those are amazing. The Vulture, Mysterio. So many good things about the Spider-Man movies, but I don't think any of them captures Spider-Man. Yes, people love Tobey Maguire, people love Andrew Garfield, people love Tom Holland, but they were not able to replicate Spider-Man as we all know. No, there are only two of them that were able to do that. The TV show The Spectacular Spider-Man, which I wish that they have the fourth season, but I digress. And, well, the PS4 Spider-Man. Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. Spider-Man isn't unfamiliar when it comes to making video games. In fact, the very first video game that Spider-Man ever made was 1981 on the Atari. And let's be honest, it wasn't really perfect, per se. I mean, it kind of looked like this. Well, throughout the history, they tried to make a Spider-Man video game. It comes down to beat 'em up styles or 2D games, which kind of works in their favor and does not at the same time. While it just becomes bad, I guess you could say. But then everything changed around the 2000, where Spider-Man made by Neversoft and published by Activision, Heat, appeared on the Dreamcast, PS2, and the Nintendo 64. This not only gives Spider-Man first try in the 3D game genre, but also revolutionized his trademark web spooling. Though in reality it wasn't the best. I mean, what is he swinging on, a helicopter that's always over his head? A space satellite? You know, I always wonder, what would happen if Spider-Man actually swings from a space satellite from the Earth? Actually, I don't think that is possible. Oh well. This was refocused in the tied-in movie video game Spider-Man 2, where they managed to get the web swing just right, and in turn became the blueprints for future Spider-Man video games. Well, almost all of them. Sadly, or maybe a blessing in disguise, Marvel Games decided to pass the torch in partnership with Sony and Insomniac to help them on the new Spider-Man game, only for PS4 and PS5 that is. Why not on the Switch or the Xbox or even PC? I honestly have no idea. However, what they showed was more than amazing. It was spectacular. When Spider-Man was released in September 7, 2018, the game replicated all the best Spider-Man games into one package. And here's the thing, this is not based on Tobey's series, not on Tom Holland's, or even Andrew Garfield's. No. This is based off of every single Spider-Man media. Comics, movies, cartoons, you name it. 2018 is the peak of the Spider-Man video games, and it shows. But how good was it? Well, that's where we're here to find out. So strap yourself in and get your web shooters ready as we review Spider-Man for the PS4 and PS5. It's jamming time. The story opens up with Spider-Man dealing in the aftermath of putting Fritz behind bars. Everything was good, until it wasn't. A mass gang known as the Inner Demons begin seizing the opportunity of Fritz's absence, led by none other than Mr. Negative.
Welcome aboard, Doctor.
As to make matters worse, they are also after something called the Devil's Breath that could cause more harm to New York than what he considered good.
Okay.
And what's even more worse is that Spidey is unable to pay his rent.
Me.
Yes, everything screams out Spider-Man.
You know anyone?
From the beginning,
Actually, I
a
do.
hero to
His
facing
name is
the
Miles
aftermath of
Morales.
his actions.
Why does that sound
I could
familiar?
simply say that
His
this
father was
storytelling
being honored at some
perfectly
Ah.
reflects the comics to its
Talked to him at the
peak.
funeral.
Yet it feels
He's
like a separate
smart kid. He's
continuity
just
from the comics,
having
even
a
the
tough time.
movies or the TV series.
I knew.
It's similar to Batman Arkham series, though in my opinion on a grander scale. Not only referencing on Spider-Man's enemies in his series, but the superheroes from Marvel as well. Daredevil, Iron Fist, Avengers, Dr. Fate, you name it. So when I say that you are Spider-Man, you are literally Spider-Man. You can climb up walls, bend a web, catch bad guys like flies stuck to a web. But here's the thing. The way that the game plays, it's exactly how Spider-Man really feels. The way that you swing across the city, the way that you use the combat, using the environment to your advantage, it's basically like Spider-Man. And don't get me started with the combat. The combat is top notch. And this is not simply as there are guys that fight in close combat and there are guys that fight them in the distance. No, 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 no. This is a complete different scenario altogether. Sure, there are some bad guys that often have to fight you in close to hand-to-hand combat. And there are some that uses guns in the distance. But there are more to it than meets the eye. Some bad guys will have weapons in which you have to knock them out with a hard punch, get them in mid-air and do various combos. Some are pretty big and bulky, which can take a lot of hits. And if you decide to use your web to pull them towards you, they will instead pull you towards them. So you have to think on your feet. What do? Either you try to thwart them in your web, or you try to use objects and swing them towards them, knocking them out dizzy, so that you can thwart them easily. And then there are others that use snipers. And I don't mean like one of those button interactions things. No. They literally snipe you in the distance. You had to avoid them. Either using stealth in your advantage, or try to get around them and attack them from behind. And there are some that fly in the air, where you have to fight them in the air. Some that have shields, which you have to attack them from behind. And so many more. I will go overload, and I haven't even talked about the web gadgets yet. Of course, there are the original ones, like the web shooters. Basically put, if you shoot the bad guys enough times, they will be entangled in web, in which you have two possibilities. Either throw them towards your opponent, or throw them towards the wall to get them stick to the wall. But then there are others, like the impact web, which basically is like a web shooter, except once they get entangled to the web, they will be pushed towards a certain direction. And then there is the spider drone, in which they will fly around the air and try to shoot, I guess, tasers, I don't know. But then there's the web bomb, which you can basically entrap everyone in close distance. Electric web, which basically stun the opponents with the web, and sometimes others around them. Trip mine basically puts, if someone decided to walk towards the trip mine, they would activate it in case they either get stuck to the wall, or sometimes give them a nice hug with another opponent. And the concussion blast, which is basically like a big, huge sonic boom, sending the opponents away towards your environment. And oh boy, there's so many. Oh, there's so much that you can use. Sometimes you can use them for stealth purposes, or sometimes to make sure the others would just wait their turn. But of course, just like Spider-Man, you can't always constantly use them all the time. You have to rationalize them. The web shooters can reload in certain timelines, but the other web gadgets, you have to get them by either fighting against the opponents so much that you would gain them one of the gadgets, or later down the line, in my personal favorite, doing tricks in midair. You see, while pressing the triangle and square button together, you're actually able to do tricks in midair, not only building up the gadgets, but also gaining EXP and building up your power meter, so you can do two various things. Either regain a certain amount of health, or to do quick KOs. The XP thing isn't really anything special. It basically builds you up, giving you more health and more power, making you a little bit more stronger in the process. It also allows you to unlock certain movesets from the skill tree. With the skill tree, you're also able to unlock certain movesets, which gives you a more easier time. Sometimes involved with the webbing or defensive maneuvers or certain combos, which will extremely help you when you're fighting against a group of people. The game constantly switched to, well, three other characters. Peter Parker, of course, MJ, and Miles Morales. Peter Parker is more of a puzzle element situation, unlike Spider-Man, where it focuses on combat, analyzing on certain chemicals, or trying to redirect a circuit point from point A to point B. Miles Morales and MJ, on the other hand, well, that's a completely different story. They're more focuses on stealth than anything else. And not the stealth approach like how Spider-Man does. No, it's more of trying to avoid getting caught and avoid getting themselves killed. I kind of enjoy Miles Morales' take, since he has this unique ability of hacking into certain systems. But MJ, on the other hand, I mean, I get it. You're playing as a character that has no superpowers, so you have to avoid, well, getting yourself killed. But on the other hand, I enjoy playing as Spider-Man so much, I kind of feel numb when playing as Miles Morales, MJ, especially Peter Parker. I personally want to play as Spider-Man. It is called Spider-Man the game. And thankfully, they don't force you to play as those characters so much. Maybe a small portions here or there, but you're basically playing as either Peter Parker or Spider-Man. But there is one minor issue I have with the game, and it's the side missions. The side missions aren't bad per se. In fact, they're pretty good in some scenarios. What I have an issue with the game is, well, when you play through the main mission, there's a certain point where the game has you to stop for a moment and have you to do side missions, you know, to upgrade yourself. On one hand, it's an opportunity to gain more EXP, gaining more health, more power, giving you more power to your gadgets, unlocking suits, the usual stuff. On the other hand, however, it's kind of a pace breaker when you're wanting to play through the main mission. It's like at one point you're trying to play through the entire game, then the next point the game decides forcing you to stop, wait a minute, and decide to do the side missions. I mean, look, I get it. You're trying to make the game a little bit more longer, or some cases, you're trying to make the player a little bit more stronger, so that they won't have a harder time in the main story. On the other hand, however, it's kind of a pace breaker when you want to play through the main story. And that's an issue with me. It's like you're trying to go through the motions, and all of a sudden the game decided, hey, stop a moment. You take a break. Do the side missions. Don't worry about the story. We'll get to it when we get to it. It's a minor pace breaker if you ask me. All I got to say is, man, it looks so good. No starter, no slowdown, no need to wait the game to load up in another part of the world. And for added bonus, it feels like you literally are in New York, only in the Marvel comic universe. Swinging around is just a breath of fresh air, and the world that Spidey's in feels so alive. It's so detailed to the world, even the characters. Well, some are kind of lazy than others, but the main characters are pretty good. The sight you see in the night and dusk to even morning shows how gorgeous it feels, how it looks. And the movement while swinging around is so zen and breathtaking. The motion blurs as you build up speed or falling, the walls swinging is just so brilliant. But the music, oh boy, the music, breathtaking. John Hasiano did a wonderful job. It's as cinematic like any superhero movie would provide, and this isn't from No Way Home. No, he was influenced by all Spider-Man music and other medias. Even the Pizza Time music returned. The Pizza Time music! Pizza Time!
Here you go. Here. Take one. Here you go.
Pizza time.
Well, if there's one minor nitpick, it's actually the game isn't free from bugs. Going to talk a little bit on the side missions here. While I was doing a little bit of recording, I was trying to beat all the guards, the Sable guards, in the arena. I was managing to beat them all, but I noticed there was one missing. I tried to figure out where that guard is, why I couldn't find it. All of a sudden, I found him inside the box. I couldn't even be able to complete the mission. I have to go to the menu, go restart from checkpoint, and do it all over again. I mean, how did that happen? I have no idea. Maybe there was a loading situation with certain guards to jump into certain areas. Maybe they accidentally clip into the map. Who knows? Oh boy, where do I begin? Easter eggs of Marvel Comics and media. Check. References to past Spider-Man films and shows. Check. Upgrading yourself for more attacks. Check. Webbing capabilities. Check. Missions. quadruple check. What else is there to talk about?
Thanks, Spider-Man.
Well, there are these suits. You see, various missions give you these special tokens. When you get those tokens, you are able to use them to, well, unlock, well, your Spider-Man suits. Some of them are referencing to Spider-Man movie genres, others
Wait,
representing other
you don't think
Spider-Man
this has
that are
anything to do
from
with
the
Gleek, do you?
Spider-Verse, even referencing the Spider-Verse for
Sorry
crying
to
out loud.
interrupt.
And boy, there's a lot to talk about the suits, because not only they give you a special look, but also their own unique abilities too. Some of them involve like some sort of low gravity, like the Spider-Man 2099, where when you hit them up in the air, enemies will stay up in the air. Others involve beefing up your attacks. Others give you some invincibility, refill webbing. This list can go on and on and on. Here's the thing, they're still adding more. Just not on the PS4, the version I'm using. They're doing it on the PS5. It's kinda sad that they're not giving some love for the PS4, but I understand their decision. Especially when they added suits that appeared on No Way Home. Man, they look legit. However, they do have DLC for this game, which I instantly bought at Square One. It's kind of a side story for Spider-Man, which involves of the what was it called again? The City That Never Sleeps, which is basically a side story for Spider-Man, involving more iconic characters, like giving us a little bit more interaction with Sable, the appearance of Black Cat, and Hammerhead. I gotta say, they look pretty fun to play. I haven't tried them out yet. I repeat, yet. They look quite amazing. But then we got to discuss the other elephant of the room. You can play the game all over again. This time, you can actually set to a different difficulty. Ultimate, which is basically extra hard mode for Spider-Man fans. But not only get to play it all over again, but also play it all over again with all the gadgets and suits you already contain. So you don't have to, do everything all over again. I like this idea, in case if you want to play the game all over again with all the gadgets and all the suits you gain throughout the journey. That way you don't have to restart a new save point and have to regain everything all over again. It's like you're replaying the game from fresh. With every gadget you gain, you can be able to use them in certain scenarios and use them in certain environments where it makes things a lot easier for you. Not only this is the best Spider-Man game I ever played, it's also the best superhero game I ever played thus far. Not only you play as Spider-Man, you actually feel like him too. I hope in future games, Marvel or DC, will take notes from this, unlike a certain PS4 game we know. My only gripe is that it was only released on the PS4 and PS5, which I wish it was on the Xbox, maybe Switch, or even better, PC, but I digress. With the sequel coming soon and Wolverine having a second chance, anything could happen at this point. For now, all we can do is wait to see the results for the future. But I will definitely recommend anyone to play this game. Try it out at least. So, those are my thoughts. What about yours? Did you enjoy the game, or did you not enjoy it? Place your comments down below. Till then, this is your my friend John Proctor, saying stay jam-tastic and have yourself a great time. Excelsior.
Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll
find that spider.